These thoughts up in my head. Things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here.
I got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm your host, Ed, and as always, journey with me as we are pursuing greatness in a world full of chaos. What a week. I hope everybody's doing all right. I hope that you have entered or gone through your week stress-free. It's pumpkin spice season for all you pumpkin spice lovers. This is your time. I'm seeing a lot of Halloween decorations, a lot of candy corn, which, let me just put this out there, I think that is the worst candy known to man. I don't understand the fascination behind why it looks like corn, or putting it in a little dish with the dry, what are they, dry roasted peanuts. I just don't think they're good. It's like eating wax. But there's people that love them. I mean, it's probably the most recycled candy. I feel like they just find the leftover candy corn, put it in a bag, zip it up, and then just put it in storage until the next year. But if that's what you love, just keep it over there. That and Peeps. I think those are like the top two worst candies of all time. I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about, but that's what came up. Anyway, welcome. How was your week? How are you? How are you physically, mentally, emotionally? Have you been able to assess that throughout your week? Mine was quite the roller coaster. There have been some ups and some downs. There have been some moments of really just having to sit back and just analyze steps that are being taken, and then just, there's some small moments that just kind of make you step back and think. But if I had to rate my week, it'd probably be a 5. And you'll understand why in a minute. We're kind of getting to the topic of conversation here, but yeah, probably a 5. There's just a lot happening. But before we get into all that, a small win. One of my colleagues just had his baby girl the other day, so congratulations to him and his wife, and wishing you nothing but the best. It is a beautiful moment when you are able to look into your child's eyes for the first time and know that you get to be the parent that spends your life doing your best to raise, to nurture, to build, to grow. It's an undescribable feeling, but it's such a blessing and a miracle. So that's him and his wife's first. So congratulations to you all. Yeah, that might be. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If there's anything else, I apologize. If you told me something, I forget. Which I should put out there. If you have small victories that you want to share or things that you want to shout out on the podcast, let me know. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on, what else am I on? Instagram, TikTok, Gmail, YouTube. Feel free to like, comment. It's all the platforms are Overthinking Thoughts Pod. So, yeah. Okay. This episode is called Slow Down and Focus. There's a good reason why it's called that. And that this title was given to me by my mom, who I've talked about before, who I love to death, but she got to help me out through a process. So let's dive into this thing. And fair warning, I mean, nothing bad happens, but there was, when I explain it, you'll understand why I feel the way that I feel. So, all right, here's what happened. I love my job, and the nice part about it is there's some flexibility in when, you can work from home, you can come in, whatever you need to do. So I had a day where I had to come in and do some stuff in the morning, but the afternoon was free, and it was like a day where I usually work from home anyway. So I was like, I'll go in, do some work, then I'll just go back home, work the rest of the day there, no problem. So as I'm leaving, I'm trying to figure out exactly. I think I was trying to figure out what I was going to eat, and I had no clue, and I was just kind of driving around, and I was just thinking about all the things I had to do that week. I was thinking about stuff I had to do when I got home. We had a busy weekend that was coming up, so just trying to figure all those things out. And when I'm in the car, if I'm not listening to music, I'm alone with my thoughts, which I have to find a better way of not allowing myself to get cornered into that, because then once my mind goes idle, all things are just all over the place, because the idle mind is just not a great place to be. So, and in that same breath, when you overthink things too much and you start creating scenarios, you have to be very careful of what you're thinking about, because sometimes that can manifest out, and then you have to figure out, oh wow, now I'm in this position, like what happens. Case in point, I was driving and I was close to home and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to eat, and I saw on my route, I saw like an officer, and it was kind of like tucked in the cut, you know, but he wasn't like doing anything. I think he was just taking notes. But then I got to thinking of just, you know, people that get pulled over, and then that kind of took me down a path of people that, well, we all know the stories in the news. We know what happens. Some stories are very unfortunate. Some have caused an uproar in the world. So it's a very triggering moment. And then that took me back to a time at a previous employer. It was myself and a couple other people. We were talking just about everything that was going on in the world at that time. I forget exactly which is sad to say. I forget like what case or what story was out there then, but we were just kind of talking about like the fear of just driving and seeing an officer and wondering if they're going to pull you over, because that does happen. Now, in this particular situation, there was a reason for it, but it's just the thought of, even when you're just minding your business, just the appearance, you know, and you can relate that to thoughts that you overthink, things that make you anxious, things that you worry about, things that you dwell on, sometimes just the things that trigger you. The appearance of it, or the thought of the appearance of it, can put you in such a very, like, a paralyzed state that you just freeze and you don't really know what to do. But while I'm thinking about all this stuff, I'm floating down this road, and I'm close to home, so I'm just cruising. So I think the speed zone was like 40, and I was doing like maybe 50. I speed sometimes. It is what it is. But as I'm going, I'm like thinking, and I'm not really focused. I'm just thinking about all the thoughts. Here comes a sheriff car that goes right past me, and I can see it start to slow down. And when it happened, I kind of was like, oh crap, they coming for me. Well, maybe. I don't know. I see him pull the U-turn. I'm like, oh gosh, like, here's one of my biggest fears that's happening. And sure enough, as I'm driving, he speeds up, gets right behind me, lights come on. I pull over. He's like, you know, go to the other side of the road, so we switch over. That part wasn't too terrifying. It was kind of like, man, all right, I know what I was doing, but I'm also like aware of the dangers of what it means to be an officer, but I'm also aware of the danger of being in my position, and the thought of wondering if this is going to go left real quick. And that thought came to life real quick when they got out of the car, because I'm looking through my mirrors, and mind you, I got like my hands on the wheel, you know, my window's already down, so I'm just like, I already know, like, when they show up, like, I'm ready to go. I know where my stuff is, like my insurance. I keep on my phone. My license is close by, like, so everything that I need, everything's registered, like, that's cool. But then the reality of then watching them get out of the car, and then I'm looking in the mirror, and they got hands close to hip, and now I'm like even closer, because my thought is, even if you move, this can go bad real quick, real fast, and then like you start, like, I'm like feeling it now, but you start thinking about all the things you could have done. I'm like, man, if I would have just went straight home. Or if I would have stayed at work just a little bit longer. Like, you think about all these things. But so as they're like, one's approaching on the other side, and the other one is kind of like stepping back but still keeping an eye, and I'm just like, okay. So he comes up, he starts talking to me just about hey, like, what's going on? Do you have all your stuff? And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm registered. I got my license. My tags are up to date. Like, so I'm good. And he's like, do you realize, like, how fast you were going? And I said, to be honest, I wasn't. But, thinking about it, I probably was, like, coasting. He said, yeah, you were going pretty fast. And, we'll, like, just, it was weird kind of how he was asking me the questions. Because I honestly think that he might have been a little nervous. I don't really know, like, some of the questions that he was asking were really, it was different. And he's like, are you in a rush? I'm like, nah. He's like, where you coming from? And then he's kind of like, well, are you from around here? And it was just like, I don't know what he was probing for, but it just didn't feel right. And I'm like trying to answer the questions as best as I can. I'm keeping eye contact. I got my hands visible. Like all the things that like in black families we have these conversations just because at any moment, at any time, things can go to the other side. And I'm trying to get home to my kids. Like that's all I want to do at this point. So he's like, all right, I need to check your license. We'll be back. So they get back in the truck. And now I felt like I sat there forever. And the whole time while I was sitting there, the first thing I did was pray. And it's just like, and the prayer was different. Like at first it was like, God, get me out of this. But then I had to step back and I'm just like, God, like whatever the lesson is in this moment and whatever this situation is, above all things, let you be in control. Because this is a moment of where you really don't have control and you have to trust. You gotta trust the process, right? Like, and it's a scary moment. And like what seemed, I don't know how long it was, but it seemed like I sat there for a good 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm good with what I'm doing, so I know I don't have anything crazy, but just the thought of what if they come back with stuff. So now I'm like, well, what if this and what if that and what if they say this, and then I gotta like answer all these stuff like that. And the other freak out moment was when I had to look for my insurance. My insurance is on my cell phone, like through the app. But when I went to the app, it like reset everything, and I had to log in, and I didn't know the login stuff. But luckily, there was a feature that it's like a quick tap. ID card came up right away. I'm like, thank God. So after about 10 minutes of sitting there, I watch them come back. And then they do the same thing. But the other thing that really made me nervous was I'm looking at the guy who's coming to talk to me, but the other officer is still like staring right at me with his hand on his hip. And I understand. Listen, I understand what protocol is because I know that people don't know what they're walking up to. But at the same time, the only thing I can think of is all of the moments and when those things went bad. And save that whole like, well, this is what happened, like, like protocol, this, that, and the third. Save all that because I understand that that's what they're supposed to do. They're trained to do that. I got that, but also understand what it means to be black in America. Cut on the TV and see every story that starts like that, and see moments of injustice. Feel how you want to feel about it, but until you are in that position, until you know what that feels like, it's a different situation. And the only thing that you can think about is, am I going to be able to make it home? And there's a bigger lesson in that of, of just trying to figure out like what's going to happen next. So, long story short, he comes up, and the blessing in this was, he's like, we looked at everything. You seem to be fine. Like, I'm just going to give you a warning. My advice is through these, like, it's a weird spot because it changes quickly where it goes 40 and then it drops to 35, and you got to be careful where you are. Keep doing your best. And, I told him, like, what I do for a living. So he's like, keep being a good example for the kids that you work with and like, take care of yourself. So that ends. And I'm like I'm relieved, but I'm still on 10. Like, my nerves are jittery. Like, I'm like tense. So I get to the grocery store because that's where I was actually headed to go get food. And then I call my mom's up. I'm talking to her, and we're kind of like, I'm processing everything that happened. And I said, in the end, what I have to remember is, like, there was a warning that was given, there was a lesson that was learned there. I said, but the experience itself was one that really just kind of shook me, because then I kept thinking about, like, I kept thinking of, if it would have been a different day, and if something else would have changed, like, I don't know. Because the reality that I see is I hear about it on TV, and that's where it becomes. So, as I was calming down and I'm talking to my mom about this, she was like, man, maybe this was God's way of telling you that you need to slow down and focus. I said, you're probably right. And she's like, you have a tendency to kind of let your mind go, and then you start wondering one thing to the next and being all over the place. Focus. That's what you need to do. And so as I was able to get home and relax, and I'm texting my wife as she was working at the time, and I'm like, listen, don't freak out, but this is what happened. It's just a warning. But also, I'm a little on edge. And so we were able to talk about it a little bit, and the reality is that now, like, it made me think of so many other things, and it put a lot of stuff in the perspective of being able to slow down and focus. So from that experience, it just made me think about everything else in life. And I know that for some, that might be a dramatic stretch, but this is what happened. Like, I can only tell you what I experienced in my life and what I was thinking. However you apply that information to you is to you, but understand that some people's realities are going to be different from what your opinion might be of it. But you still got to be respectful of it, because everybody goes through something that's different. And for me, it was a difficult situation, because I've had an experience with an officer who decided that at any moment, if he really wanted to let go, he would have. That's a different story for a different day, because I'm not really ready to open that box. But just know that I saw some stuff that night that I didn't want to see. I'm just glad that I'm still here to talk about it. But with all that being said, to bring it back to the original point of slowing down and focus, that was a moment of where, like, I had no control of the situation. I had to stop, and I had to just sit there and, like, process everything. But it also put in perspective things that were more important. I was so worried about, like, all the stuff that I had to do, and I got to go here, and I got to do this, and I got to grab this food, and I got to email this person, I got to talk to this person. That'll be there. The things that you do, who do you do them for? What's important in your life? Is the job that important that you won't be able to enjoy your 1-year-old son who sees you when you walk in the door and starts laughing and waves at you? Or your 10-year-old son who wants to go play basketball and is asking you about all the things that you get to take him to his soccer practice, and he gets to hang out with his friends, and you're watching him grow up, and his childhood is different from yours because you're learning how to break generational curses? Are you able to be home and see your wife and think about the things that you have to do for your family, and know that even though she's going through a stressful time, that you have to show up and be there? Because if I would have panicked or done something out of the ordinary, I would not have been able to see that. And I know this is a drastic change, but follow me on this, because this is the roller coaster of emotion. Do not let your thoughts overtake you so much that it drowns out the most important things in your life. Family is important. Time with your kids is important. Time with your spouse is important. Time with friends and support systems is important. And if you're so busy thinking about everything, and I got to do this and I got to do that, you will speed past all of the things that are important to you, and you will show up to a destination unprepared and overwhelmed. And this is why this podcast exists, because that is a lot of what I talk about is relevant to me, because I want to make sure that I'm in the moment and I'm able to enjoy what's in front of me. I did a lot of rushing in life. I made a lot of decisions in life that got me to a certain point. And it wasn't until I slowed down and focused and figured out who I was, that's when I was able to find the things that were important to me, that would add value to my life and would give me a sense of understanding. And it's still a work in progress because the life is a journey. Like, it's a whole thing. But we got to make sure that we stay on the path and do what we do best, right? So sometimes these thoughts make us run wild, and then we become so overwhelmed and we become extremely anxious, and we're still trying to figure out, like, right? Like, it is a lot. But in this very moment, the one thing I want to tell you is don't forget to breathe. I had a teacher friend who we would say that to each other, and I'd be like, you breathe today? And she's like, yeah. Are you breathing today? And it's like, yeah, barely, but I am. And it's so crazy to think that in stressful moments, like, we'll walk through things and we're trying to brace ourselves for impact, that we'll literally hold our breath through the whole process. And, you know, breathing is essential to life. So if you're cutting off the main piece of what you need, you're not going to make it far. And so that's where this lesson really kind of broadened things for me, because as I was able to sit and process throughout that night and then throughout the rest of the week, like, being able to sit at home and watch my youngest throw all his toys out of the playpen, you know, in essence, it's really not that big of a deal, because I'm there to witness it and I'm there to see it. I'm present. My son comes out from his room and wants to show me a YouTube video or show me some shoes he's interested in. I'm present. My wife wants to share a funny story with me or talk to me about, you know, weekend plans and what we need to do for the kids, and trying to figure out when we can have a time for ourselves to just, you know, reconnect. Like that, I'm there for that. And if I keep overthinking things, which there was a time in life in a previous job where I was so stressed and letting all these things manifest in my mind that I missed the signals from my wife of saying that she needed me to be present. I missed the signals from my son telling me that he needs me to be there more. And that's why, which I'll elaborate on in the next episode, well, probably the next episode after this, but, you know, to be able to have those moments and to be able to just relax and realize, like, this is important. And as much as we want to reach the destination and as much as we want to get to where we want to go, speeding won't get us there. I mean, it might get you there, but you're going to miss out on what you need. Or there's going to be a situation where you're trying to move so fast that you're going to be forced to slow down and there's nothing you can do about it. So if focus is important to us, then we got to slow down so that way we're able to see where we're going. You know, as black folk, when we back into the spot with the music loud, we cut the music down and we looking. Cutting music down just helps us see better for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it just does. But you're able to see where you're going. You're able to get into the parking spot the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like eliminating the distraction to be able to really focus in on what we're trying to do. And I guess to wrap all this up, sometimes you gotta slow down, and you gotta, you gotta recharge and then focus on what's going on. You also don't want to burn out too, because if you're just going, you deplete all your energy, and then what? What do you do after that, right? And the quick way is not always the great way. The quick way and trying to speed through, like, ain't always good. Like, if I told you, if you had the option to go to, say, McDonald's or sit patiently and have a great filet, I don't know about you, but I want the filet. I want the steak, you know what I mean? I want the good dinner that I know is going to fulfill me. I want what's going to fulfill me, not what's going to just temporarily get me to where I need to go. Listen, to kind of like put that together, fast food is always the quick route. It's not always the most satisfying, though. Sure, you need something real quick. You can go, get through the window and go. Grab your food, go home. Cool, it'll work. Sometimes it's not that satisfying. Sometimes the food's cold. Sometimes they forget your fries. Sometimes they give you the wrong drink. Sometimes you might be the only car in line and it's still taking 30 minutes to get you stuff. So although it looks really, really convenient, sometimes it's not always the best thing. Most of the time it's not the best thing from a health perspective, but you get the point. Quick, fast, and in a hurry will get you to a certain spot, but it will not help you in the long process. And that's where we have to really take time to step back and focus. It was an eye-opening thing for me. It definitely was a moment of clarity. It was a moment of God talking to me and saying, listen, you're so worried about the destination. I need you to focus on your journey. I need you to come back a little bit. Like you were doing good, and then you let your mind wander, and I just got to pull you back a little bit. If that was the experience that I had to go through in order to remind myself that this is a marathon and not a sprint, then so be it. I keep the warning in my car because I have to remind myself daily, like, you got to slow down. It was a lot. There was a moment in there where I thought I was going to tear up, which, if that happens, so be it. It's okay to cry and get your emotion out. It's also okay to process, and it's okay to sit back and just kind of recharge. It's okay to slow down sometimes. It is. You don't always have to be in a rush. And when we rushing, sometimes we get caught up in things that we don't need. Sometimes when you rush, you end up in accidents. On my way to work the other day, I saw a car that they were probably trying to rush the turn or trying to beat the light, and both cars hit each other. Thankfully, both of the drivers were okay, but you had one car, it was like a Dodge Durango, and the whole axle is in the street. Yeah, I mean, both cars are totaled at this point, and I can guarantee that if they replay that moment in their mind, there's a moment of which they were like, I wish I would have taken the time to make the right turn, or I could have just stayed at the light. I've also seen that situation where it didn't work out well for a person. Now I don't want to get into that because that's maybe a different episode for a different day. The point I'm trying to make, though, is there's a lot of times where we rush and we miss out on those things. Biggest moment for me was sitting there to realize that I don't want to rush through life, and then next thing I know, my kids are grown and I didn't give them anything valuable. I don't want to rush through my life and realize that my wife and I could have, had a really great marriage, but I was trying to rush and get everything done. No, I want to take my time and enjoy it. It's what I prayed for. I prayed for kids. I prayed for a wife. I prayed to have a successful job. I prayed to, work to make the younger me proud, to forgive the younger me, and to be proud of how far we've come. I pray for those moments. If I don't take the time to enjoy them, and I don't take the time to really experience the blessing of what it is, what are we doing this for? Right? My goal for you, homework for you, is to look at the areas in your life where you feel like you're trying to rush and ask yourself, is rushing necessary, or does slow and steady win the race for me? Take some time, relax, slow down, and stay focused. You do those things, you'll find that success will reach you at the right time, at the right moment, and you'll know when it's your time to shine. Don't rush your process. Allow your process to manifest you into where you need to be. Okay? I hope you learned a lot. I hope I didn't make it too dramatic. If I did, it is what it is. But maybe it got the point across. But stay focused, all right? Remember, as always, you can reach me YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Gmail. All handles are OverthinkingThoughtsPod. continue to shine, continue to grow. May your week be a blessed week. May you go after all the things that you've been wanting to accomplish. But remember, take your time. And don't forget to breathe, okay? And trust your process. You are on the right path. You're going where you need to go. You're doing what you need to do. Now stay steady and allow it to get you to where you need to go. All right, remember, as always, I believe in you. Now go believe in yourself. It's the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. This is Ed. We out.